sometimes I've got to coach people through, hey, you're probably spending too much money and we're going to have problems down the road. A lot of times, especially when you get to retirement, if you've done a good job, it's a big mindset switch. I have to coach people through, hey, it's okay to spend some of these dollars, right? You've been wired to put money into a 401k or the bank account or wherever and save, that when you get to retirement, all of a sudden it's don't save anymore. It's spend. And I know it sounds funny, but there are people out there that have a very, very hard time making that switch.
We've been doing this for 20 years and serving hundreds of families. We're going to bring solutions to your situation.
How do you choose a financial advisor? How do you know who you should work with?
That's the value of that 210 core, of moving everything towards a purpose on purpose.
Hey everybody, welcome to your Retirement Blueprint Podcast, the solo edition. My name's Kendall Stahl. I am your host for today's Your Retirement Blueprint Podcast. Like I said, today we're going to talk about a lot of fun stuff, I think, although it's going to be talking about spending plans in retirement and kind of how to go about that and what we think on it. So I don't know if it's fun or not, but we're going to talk about it. Spending a lot of time getting back into the swing of things. We got some cool stuff coming out from our firm here that we've been working really hard on. One of them is a book that's coming along that our founder, Phil Cooper, wrote. So that's some big news coming from our firm here at the beginning of the year, and a lot of cool other things as well. So look for all that stuff in terms of my life and the fun things that have been going on. If you care, which some of you may not, is I got my son some tickets to the PBR. And we went to that and we had a lot of fun as a family. So I don't know if you know what that is, but PBR is professional bull riding. It's kind of our thing. We try to watch it as much as we can. And my little boys think they're cowboys. So we had a whole lot of fun, going to that in Chicago, and it was some good family time away for the weekend. So anyways, we always start out with a question. I don't normally do this, but the question coincides with our topic for the day. So, Joan from Branson, Missouri asks, hey, do I need a budget in retirement, is what her question is. And I think nobody likes the word budget, so I like to use the word spending plan. It makes you feel more warm and cozy about not just blowing all your money. But it's kind of a hard question to answer when I don't know Joan's information. I think that, everybody needs to, I think there's two sides of the story, right? I mean, yeah, I think we need to be prudent and we need to manage our dollars the best that we can. And sometimes that means understanding where you're spending your dollars and when and why you're spending them. But also when you get to retirement, I mean, I think the goal is to kind of be able to do what you want, when you want, and not have to worry about money. And so hopefully, Joan, you're in that position to where you can kind of do what you want, when you want, and not have to worry about money. Now, obviously, everybody's going to have to worry about it a little bit. It's not like Joan's just going to be able to go buy a jet because she wants to. I mean, maybe Joan can. I don't know. I don't know her situation, but I'm guessing it's highly unlikely that if Joan decides to go buy a jet and fly all over the world, that it's going to be okay. So obviously, we need to have some sort of a situation to understand how much money is being spent every month or every year. But certainly for my retirement, and I know my wife, we're not going to want to be in a position in retirement to where, we got to be concerned about, is it okay if we go out to eat or not tonight? Or, we spent $200 on groceries this month, now we got to eat rice and beans for the rest of the month. I certainly don't want to be in that kind of a position. So I think obviously this is kind of the same, the question that's going to blend into our topic, and the topic today is having some sort of a plan and understanding how to manage expenses in retirement. And the way I like to think about it is there's this thing called the go-go years, right? And that's when you're young and you've got your health and you've got, you're retired, and you can go do the things you want to do. Now, for us, I'm a long ways off from retirement, but frankly, my definition of retirement is getting to do what I want when I want, right? And I think a lot of people think that retirement is not working, and that's just going out and having fun. I know for a lot of folks that getting to do what you want when you want might be running your business. It might be going to work every day, right? And so I think retirement as a word or as a rule is really broad for everybody. It's not necessarily just sitting at home or going on vacation. It's getting to do what you want when you want, with who you want, right? And so for some of you, that may be like for my wife, that's probably going to be, traveling around the world and staying at different locations. She's got the travel bug, and I'd like to think that maybe she would like to do that with me, but I guess it probably depends on the day. And so for other people, I'm more of a goer. I got to get up in the morning and I got to go do something, right? So I don't think I'm ever going to be in the position to where I just retire and say, I'm not going to work another day in my life. I'm a farm boy, working is kind of in my blood, and I have a hard time imagining a point in life where I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to go watch the news. Then maybe I'm going to go, eat breakfast down the road and then come back and take a nap. Like, that's just not going to be me. Right. And so everybody's got a different definition, and we gotta build some sort of a plan around that for you, to make sure that you got the cash flow and the things to do that. Right. So, kind of got off track there, but we were talking about the go-go years. So that's when you're young, you have your health, you can go do what you want when you want with who you want, I think is what I was trying to say, right? And so those years are probably going to be some of your higher spending years, right? So when you're building out any good financial plan, I think that it's good to, you obviously need to understand what your expenses are. But when we do that in our firm, we're looking at it on more of an annual basis, or maybe a monthly basis. And then we kind of let you figure out, where you spend those dollars. So say you need $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year, whatever the case may be. When we build out a plan, we're going to build that in there. We're going to say, okay, Bill and Mary, you're going to go spend $100,000 a year, and that's going to keep the lights on, the food coming in. That's going to be the vacations, things like that. Right. So how do we get to that $100,000 a year? And then we're going to say, you go spend that however you want to, right? Everybody's got different priorities. Some people, they're happy as a lark, just staying at home, going out to eat with their friends. Other people they want to travel to Europe and drop $30,000 on some cruise every year. And that's completely fine. We just got to make sure that we have a plan for that. Right. So those go-go years, those are going to be the years where you're doing those things. You're having fun. You got the health to do it. We need to make sure you've got enough income coming in for that. Now, I see two big mistakes right off the bat when folks are talking about how much money they need to live on in retirement, right? There's two different types of people. It's really funny because you almost, when they sit down at our conference room table, you can almost tell right away which type of person it is. But there is I'm going to call them the saver, and they come in here, and more often than not, since they're savers, they've done well and they have a pretty good chunk of money, right? And it's always funny to me because their number one concern is making sure that they don't run out of money in their lifetime. And it seems like they're always concerned about spending too much money and running out of money, which is a very good concern. But these particular people are very good savers. They usually have a pile of money, and I cannot convince them that, hey, you should probably spend more than what you're spending, because there's no way you're going to run out of money in your lifetime, right? And so sometimes I've got to coach people through, hey, you're probably spending too much money and we're going to have problems down the road. A lot of times, especially when you get to retirement, if you've done a good job, I've it's a big mindset switch. I have to coach people through, hey, it's okay to spend some of these dollars, right? You've been wired to put money into a 401k or the bank account or wherever and save, that when you get to retirement, all of a sudden it's don't save anymore. It's spend. And I know it sounds funny, but there are people out there that have a very, very hard time making that switch. Okay. And so understand how much you need to live on, but then also be okay with spending it, right? If you've worked with an advisor, they've sat down and they've built out an income and an investment plan, a tax plan, right? All the things that we talk about in our retirement blueprint. If you've got that built out and it seems reasonable, then go spend the money, right? Do the fun things, take the grandkids on vacation, whatever the case may be, right? So if you're a saver and you've saved your whole life and now you're in retirement, I just want to tell you, it's okay to spend some money. All right. Now, the next thing, so that's number one is, hey, don't forget it's okay to spend money as long as you have a plan in place and you're able to do that, right? Now, the other thing is people drastically, maybe not the saver that I just talked about, but the spender or all the other people, they drastically underestimate their expenses a lot. Right. And so they come talk to me and I say, hey, we're going to build out this retirement blueprint for you. We're going to have a plan for you. But I need to know like how much money you need to live on. Right. Because that's a big piece of it. And they're going to say, well, our bills are about $1,500 a month or whatever. Okay. And then I say, well, that's great. So you're working still and you're making some money and it's costing you a couple $1,000s to live on, but you're making, $10,000 a month. Where's the rest of that money going? And they're like, well, we're saving it. And then I say, okay, how much money's in your savings account? And then there's clearly not enough money in that savings account to prove to me that, hey, we're actually saving the rest of that cash flow every month. And so understand your expenses is huge. And I think one of the things that folks struggle with sometimes is understanding maybe what they're going to want to do in retirement and what that's going to cost. And so a lot of times, we say, hey, we need to pay the car bill, the gas, the food, keep the lights on, the real estate taxes, but we don't factor anything in there for all the fluff, the vacations, the Christmas, the things like that. So if you're building out a retirement plan, don't be afraid to shoot a little high on those expenses and then try to figure out a way to get to it. If we can't get to it, we'll talk about it. We'll back it down. We'll figure out exactly what we need to do. Don't undershoot your expenses, I guess is what I'm saying. Occasionally this happens where we can build out the best plan there is, right? And, we need $75,000 a year for this individual to live on, and they are sure that they can do it and all this, but just remember that life happens. So adjust up, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. So those are the go years. The slow go years, that's where you've got your mind, your health isn't as good. You got to kind of slow it down, right? Not fun to talk about. But more than likely, some of those fun things you're doing, the traveling, the vacations, the fishing, the hunting, whatever it is, more than likely, some of those expenses are going to go away because you just can't do them anymore, right? And so I think it's unfair to say that your expenses are going to be as high as they may be in those go years, so to speak, for the rest of your life, because I think you're going to have those slow go years, right? Where you're not able to go do the things. One thing to think about here, though, is long-term care, or I guess maybe really just generally speaking, healthcare costs, right? Those slow go years normally mean healthcare costs can be a little bit higher. Not fun to talk about. We obviously don't want to think about ourselves in those slower going years, but we want to make sure we have some sort of a plan for it. And I think that healthcare is advertised as one of the biggest expenses in retirement, and it probably is, but it's not near as scary as what it should be, right? Or I'm sorry, it's not near as scary as what I think a lot of people think it is. If you take the right steps and you have some sort of a plan put in place for healthcare expenses. It's totally manageable. Okay. Slow go years. Budget's maybe going to slow down a little bit because we're not going as hard. Make sure we have some sort of a healthcare plan in place. And then last but not least, there's the no-go years, which I think you all know what that means. And if we just put it nicely, that's where we're passing assets to the next generation. Okay. And you're not going to need to spend money anymore. And so having a plan for that is obviously important as well. So go, slow go, no go. Kind of keep that in mind when you're thinking about how much money you need to spend, and how long maybe you need to spend it for. But then just some high level things that I wrote down: understanding healthcare costs, having a plan around it for those slower go years. And then, I like to think about, if you want to get into the tactics a little bit more, maybe to help Joan out, clear back from our question earlier in the show, is, I always like to get to the have tos, right? What are the have tos? I need to know what the number is for the have tos. The light bill, the gas in the car, the food on the table. What's that, right? And then how much do we want to put on top of that for the fun stuff, or the go-go years, I guess is what I should say. Sometimes that can help you. Budgeting in itself, I'm not going to talk about a lot today, but I can tell you this: you got to do what's right for you. Okay. So here's a story for you. When we first got married, Carrie and I did, we're trying to get on a budget, right? And budget is just a bad word. Nobody wants to budget. Who in the world says, hey, I'm going to go budget, right? I do have one friend that maybe would enjoy that, and I'll leave those names out right now, but, nobody likes to build a budget. Anyways, we tried the Dave Ramsey way, the cash, the envelope system. It went great for like 1.5 days. And then we realized that we're millennials and we hate cash, right? And so that just didn't work. Then we tried the other app and the next app and yada yada. And finally we realized we know how much money we can spend every month. And so once we get to that number, we just have to stop spending money, or try our hardest to. And so that's Carrie and I's budgeting plan. Is we're both kind of spenders. We don't necessarily love people telling us where and when and how to spend money. And so we just know once we get to X for the month, you better start watching where you're spending money, because you're going over and it's time to shut her down. That works great for us. The friend that I mentioned, that may actually enjoy budgeting, right? His whole budget is on a spreadsheet, and that works for them. It would not work for half a day for Carrie and I, because that's just not how our brains work. So when it comes to having a budget, or a spending plan, or whatever fancy word you want to call it, so it doesn't sound so bad, just do whatever works for you, right? There's so many resources out there anymore today. You can try them all and just do whatever works for you. Get yourself in a position where budget's not a bad word in retirement. You've got enough money, enough income, enough cash flow to go do what you want, when you want, with who you want. And I think that will be really good for you in the long run. So a little bit about spending and when to spend and how to spend. Hopefully that helps today. We're going to wrap the show up though, and that is always wrapped up by some This Week in History. So hopefully you're excited for it. Not 19. That would be dramatically wrong. 1493. Christopher Columbus leaves the New World and sets sail for Spain. Okay, so that was obviously a big deal. 1919, the 18th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, authorizing the prohibition of alcohol and ratified by the majority of U.S. states. 1988, a little more recent, NFL St. Louis Cardinals announced move to Phoenix. I didn't even know that was a thing. I always thought they were the St. Louis Rams. So apparently the NFL had a St. Louis Cardinals that moved to the Arizona Cardinals. So that's cool. Anyways, that's This Week in History. Can't wait to see you guys next week on your Retirement Blueprint podcast. We'll see you then.